What's going on, guys? Is here once again. So this is going to be the second episode of the build diary for the Lacerate EQ Bleed Glad. As you can see now, I'm rocking EQ. I have it in a 6-link, just like I had with the Lacerate before. So we're going to start with the map. I don't remember what the mods on this were. Okay, so it's like a non-mod map, basically. I threw this map in like forever ago, and then I like AFK'd for a few hours. So. Character now is level 93. I did just flip a bunch of gyms, but I'm going to run through this. This is only a tier 11 map. The character, I've been mapping everywhere from up to T14s. So today I actually want to start farming for Conquer maps and stuff. I do have a Vuln on hit ring now. But that was from Delve, so. Got the Vuln on hit ring from Delve. It's a decent base. It's a coral ring, so could be worse for sure. There. Make them giga tanky. I see that DD. As you can probably tell right off, I will go over a lot of this because if anyone for some reason skips the mapping showcase, they're gonna need. Okay. They're gonna. That's actually so funny. I have never dropped a count chart before ever in the history of PoE in 8,300 hours. I've never dropped one, so it's funny that I got it on camera recording a build diary video. I'm so distracted now. That's so funny. I never drop items when they're good, only when they, you know, they're like power crept and don't matter anymore. I'm sure I can do something with that though. I'm sure I can do something. Anyway, as you can probably tell just from like the gameplay, it looks a lot comfier. EQ looks a lot comfier than Lacerate probably did, I can imagine. Also, I'm very happy right now with the amount of Eldritch currency I'm getting. So there have been some pretty big changes to the build. A little bit with like the passive tree and stuff, but a lot of it's just been me getting a lot of gear upgrades, making a lot of progress there. As you can see, it's super comfy. I'm using the Bleed EQ MTX, which I've like never really done before. I bought it at one point because it was like, I don't know. EQ has a lot of trash MTXs, which I think is a shame because it's a cool skill and it has potential. But this is the first time I've ever used it, and I never liked it on Impale, but on Bleed EQ, I don't know. It's something like, I think this looks trash as an Earthquake MTX, right? But if I think of this as like Blood Explosion or something, if that were the name of the skill, all of a sudden it looks way cooler to me. So I guess perspective really is everything. Because when I don't try to think of it as an Earthquake, it looks a lot better. Kill this boss. Yeah, so there you go. Tier 11 map. Pretty comfortable, I would say. The Vuln on ring helps so much with bleed builds. I'd say with any melee build really, but with bleed builds especially, feels really, really nice. So just hitting I here, you can see I'm level 93, just dinged it actually. I was like 5% off before this video, so I figured I would just level up real quick before I recorded it. So I guess first and foremost, at the very beginning of this video after the map showcase, I'm going to go over Lacerate versus Earthquake. And this series, more so coincidentally than like causality, I guess, is going to, there's going to be a video I'm making called The Absolute State of Melee in Path of Exile. I'm not going to go into any more than just the title, but that is a video that I will be making. I haven't been in the process of making for a bit now, but that video is not necessarily correlated to this whatsoever. It's just timing. It's a video that I've actually wanted to make for a long time, and I didn't make it last league because I was so confident that melee would be getting buffed in some way this league, and in some ways it was, right? But everything was buffed across the board just due to like general power creep. But like mechanically, I was expecting melee to see some love, and it got none. So that video was put back on board for this league, and I just haven't gotten around to making it yet, but I've been working on the script now for a bit, so I'll be making that build. So with that preamble out of the way, I'm now using EQ, and the build is going to transition into EQ only. I will, as you can see, I got white sockets now, so I can swap between the two freely, and I do have a level 2020 Lacerate in my weapon swap. However, I will test it a little bit more, but I don't have very high hopes for it. I basically immediately dropped Lacerate yesterday on stream because I got into red maps, and in tier 12 maps, I was struggling to get Fortify. And I have both Fortify clusters here. Now, technically, I could spec through the bottom over here to get a little bit more increased fortification on hits, but I was like not getting Fortify. And that, I think, is inexcusable. The changes they made give you Fortify based on like how much damage your hits do, right? So on a bleed build that is focused around ailments, with Lacerate especially, it's got very low base damage on the hits because, again, you're scaling the ailment. That is like an entire archetype not getting Fortify. I mean, and on that Fortify note, like even Bone Shatter, which is like the premier, I would say the most popular melee build numbers wise in HCSSF this league, that still can't get Fortify in a lot of situations as well. And that is all about hit damage, right? So a build that doesn't focus hit damage at all or scale hit damage really at all is going to struggle really bad for Fortify. Me mapping with no Fortify is obviously unacceptable, so I just pretty much stopped using Lacerate then and there, and I've been using EQ since. And if you're curious why EQ over Lacerate, for that reason, it's because EQ just does so much more damage with the hit because of the way the skill works. Like if you look down at EQ, it does 150% more damage with hits and ailments. Vol EQ does 407% more damage with hits and ailments. So it does so much more damage baseline than Lacerate does. And the big thing with Fortify is like you want a lot of damage in your hits, not necessarily a lot of hits, because if you do a lot of hits but they're not hitting for anything, you're still not going to get Fortify. So this build still definitely at its current point does struggle to get Fortify in things like Harvest, but I even tested Lacerate and I couldn't, in a white tier 1 map in a Harvest, I could not get Fortify stacks, which again I think is just unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. So I don't think Lacerate is remotely viable in its current state if I can't comfortably get fortification stacks. And this is the thing, right? I'm sure, like, if I'm mapping and if I keep playing it, I'm sure there's a point in which I will, like, maybe I have Fortify stacks like 60, 70, 80% of the map. In hardcore, that's not acceptable. I cannot just not have one of my main defensive layers. Like, it can't be that inconsistent. It has to be reliable. It has to always be there. That is the entire core concept of Fortify. So like I said, I will test it a little bit more, but very likely this is going to be EQ only going forward. So with that preamble, the preamble number 2 out of the way, first I'll go over the passive tree because I think this is going to be the fastest. So first and foremost, I'm not exactly sure what my passive tree looked like at the end of the last video, but I did, I'm just going to go over where I assume I was at. I took points out of the jewel socket here because this is a 2-pointer, and I pathed up for Constitution. I went for Constitution over Devotion because it saves me a passive point for the jewel socket, and I threw a jewel socket in here. I did replace the jewel. This one's not anything crazy. It's just basically a little bit of attack speed. I still need the mana leech and some cold and lightning res, which I actually do need because I am barely capped right now. Moving on from that, I have picked up the CB immunity. And I have also trying to see what else. Cleaving I picked up. I just got this. So I just picked up this side. On EQ, I think it's worth taking. Though I do have some plans on like potentially taking that out for something that I'll cover later on in the video. And then also I grabbed the reservation efficiency node down here as well. So now I have, instead I think before it was like around like 50 on reserve mana. Now I have just under 100. So you can tell there's a lot more wiggle room there. And Earthquake is 29 mana per cost on a 6-link currently. Now, I believe that's everything. I may have taken another mastery somewhere. Possibly. No, I don't think so. Yeah, I guess that's it. Not a whole lot of changes. I definitely have gotten multiple levels since the last one, but I must be, oh yeah, I guess just life. I pumped life. I guess so. I don't think I had this in the last video. Downside of having a few day gap between the build diaries, I suppose. Anyway, as you can see, we're at 5,800 life right now, which isn't actually too bad. Oh, and one last thing. I did actually end up speccing out of Unwavering Stance and Iron Reflexes for one big reason. What is this? Ew. Okay. Actually, not a bad ring. There's a ton of Chaos Res on that. So this was taken. I was inspired to take this by Mal's, what is it called? Shield Crush bleed build. Ultimately, I decided that it's probably not worth it for this build. Mostly because I wanted the passive points, but also because being stun immune is a lot more important on something like Lacerate or Shield Crush, where you need to sit still and attack really fast in general. Obviously, being stun immune at any point in the game is very optimal. If you like, getting stunned can lead you to dying. However, for like builds that have to like really sit still to deal a lot of their damage, it's, I would say, a lot more important. However, for EQ, especially with Vol EQ, you can stutter step a lot because you are like inherently gated by the aftershock timer. So technically it is more mobile, especially when you factor in Vol EQ into the mix. And also worth noting that Vol Earthquake actually did get pretty significantly buffed recently, to the point now where my Vol EQ is like my highest source of damage by a massive margin. Now, if you go into PoB and you check like Vol EQ and EQ both being active, which is realistic whenever your Vol EQ is up. It's not like outside of mapping. Like if you're bossing, anytime you pop Vol EQ, you're basically gonna be taking a step like that. So you're every time you step, you're putting down a Vol EQ, and then obviously you're attacking, so you're getting a normal EQ. So the damage when you have both of them out is crazy. And obviously with Vol EQ doing so much more damage with hits and ailments, it pulls out ahead of EQ. So with all of that being said, I guess let's get into the gear. So looking at this, a lot of changes, right? So first and foremost, this is my shield. This may be the shield that I had in the first video. I can't remember, but I'm going to start with this anyway. This 13% chance to block, as well as having Sanctuary Anointed, puts me at spell block cap. So I am right there, right on the cusp, 50-50. And if you're wondering why I only need 73 chance to block, it's because this gives 4% spell block. So you don't actually need 75% attack block to get the 25% doubled for the spell block cap. Other than that, it's got good life, reduced damage from crit strikes, and then dexterity, which actually right now is very important for me because it's what's allowing me to use a level 19 grace that I can't level to 20 because I am short on 3 dex. And I'm being very stubborn about spending 1 passive point on a attribute node. Moving on down, I'm still using the same boots. Not a lot here has changed. I've tried to roll some of the implicits a few times, but I've had no luck in hitting anything super nice. So those are lasting for now. I have been trying to reroll boots for a while now. I haven't been lucky in hitting it. At the end of the day, all I would really want to change is maybe getting some chaos res on this, and also a higher life roll and an open suffix or prefix so I can craft on something more useful than having to force on the life myself. That compared to my gloves, which my gloves are really nice. I'm happy with them. They have the flat fizz. They have a ton of res, a ton of chaos res at that. But they don't have spell suppression. So the fact that they don't have spell suppression just immediately locks them out of being something that I will use long term. These are the same pair of gloves, by the way. But I've been trying to hit gloves. I think that's my top priority in terms of gearing right now. Aside from that, I got a new belt. This is a tier 1 life roll with a good chaos res roll, and then cold and chaos. I would like a better belt, but it's going to take me a while to get a better belt than tier 1 life with tier 2 chaos res. So I'm just rocking with this for now. This is like things like this where a lot of items don't have a lot of res, but they have like suppression or they have a lot of chaos res and stuff like that. And I'm using them as why I'm kind of in a situation where I'm just barely res capped on my character. I am at 50% chaos res though, which is really nice. And if I were to max all my resistance rolls, like my bench crafts, I would be at like almost 65, I think. So that's, or 55 rather, which is a lot of chaos res. Moving on, chest piece is the same. I think in the last video, I think I had a flat life roll on here because I didn't have the chaos yet to benchcraft on, but got the benchcraft, 8% increased life, 5% increased maximum mana, which I might add is optimal considering we are using a divine blessing with a life tap setup, which means the more mana we have, the more life pride costs. So it only costs 1185 life right now. If that was an 8% mana roll, it would cost like 100 more life. So that is a win. This is actually this roll for the benchcraft. Moving on to the helmet. The helmet has changed. Again, my implicits in every slot are basically just fucking, they're terrible. I've had no luck in hitting anything. I guess that mana regen rate is probably the best thing I've hit other than the attack speed on the gloves. But yeah, so I got a helmet with, again, it's a pretty low spell suppress roll, but it is a spell suppress roll nonetheless. 30 chaos res, life, throw on hybrid life as well. So I've got a solid 78 life on there with some decent res, spell suppression, so on and so forth. Moving on to the amulet. The amulet has stayed the same. I did, for a brief stint, put on damage while leeching, which is a really, really good node. I think I talked about this in the first video as well. However, I ended up having to replace it because from now using 2 coral rings, I needed resist to cap. So that had to go, but it was worth sacrificing for Vuln on hit, though I 100% have plans to throw back on damage while leeching somewhere on my gear as soon as I, can fit it in. Now, onto the right ring. We are using a coral ring that has really good rolls here. We have 18% fire res, 41% cold res, open prefix for the flat life roll, and an unveil level mana cost reduction. So this makes it really comfy for me to run a 1 Elrion craft, and it gives me like a little bit of breathing room in terms of, crafts on my other accessories. Like this one needs life and this one needs res, so I don't have to run a double Elrion. In the endgame setup, I still might be running a double Elrion, but for now, this is good. It's not as much as a double Elrion because you'd have 14, but minus 10 is nice, especially EQ. So like right now, I have 98 mana unreserved, and this costs 29 per cast, so it's pretty comfy. Everything else, my shield charge costs 1 mana, my flame dash costs nothing, so I'm pretty comfy. And then I've also got my enduring cry linked up. I've changed the gem links around, so I'll go over that in a minute. But yeah, so this ring's pretty solid. And then in the other slot, this was the Vuln ring I was talking about. So a lot of the mods are dead mods, which is unfortunate, but it did have an open prefix to roll life onto it. Max rolled it, only took 3 tries. And then it had 13% to all res, so it's actually pretty okay. I'm okay with that. I need to bless orb that implicit, by the way. But yeah, with this ring, I'm pretty happy with it. It's a decent enough Vuln ring. It is a tier 2 Vuln instead of a tier 1 Vuln, but it's good enough for sure. So what I'm likely to do on this character, I think what I'm going to do is try to go for A8 farming. No one in the group HCSSF private league is currently farming Cirrus. So I think that's what I'm going to do on this character for the next day or two. Try to get some woke gems for people, and then also try to get some good influence gear, and hopefully get a Drox Exalted Orb, and then run a double Vermilion ring setup as you do, and then use the Conquer Exalted Orb on a Vermilion, and then have a Vuln on hit Vermilion ring. That's currently my plan. I've always had really easy time dropping Conquer Exalts in the past, so hopefully now that it's side content, not main content, that hasn't changed, and hopefully it's not super pain champ to farm it. That is endgame. I still haven't dropped any Vermilion rings, but now the character's moving into tier 14 and tier 16 content. I should be seeing a lot more of them drop. Pray. So now let's talk about the thing that you guys probably wanted me to talk about first, but I'm talking about last. I got an Elder Siege Axe. So funnily enough, I used not 2, not 3, well, yes, actually, not 3, but 4. I used 4 gilded Elder Scarabs with Zeri fragments, full chiseled, out. Like, I put as much juice into the maps as I could. And with 4 gilded scarabs, I did not drop a single elder item in any of my maps. Not an item that I can use. A single influence item did not drop in any of those maps. And then I threw in 2 rusteds and got an elder Seajax. By the way, I did a gamba on my stream. Like, if you don't know, on Twitch, you can do like predictions and people can wager channel points, which are like, it's like currency you get just for watching the stream. It's not real money or anything. But I did a gamba for that and people bet on that. And biggest win for believers ever, by the way. Because I threw in like a rusted. I only had 2 or 3 rusteds. And I was like, you guys think we get the Seajax from this? And I was like, I didn't believe. And yeah, in the second one, it just dropped right at the beginning of the map. I was pogging out, man. I was freaking out. Anyway, I hit it with a few contempts. I hit a lot of good mods many times, but it was always a full prefix, full suffix. I try to annul down. I take off the dot multi craft. So I kept getting screwed over and over and over. So never lucky. And then I decided to throw on a Shrieking Contempt. I only had like 5 of them or something. And or maybe 10 of them. It was somewhere between 5 and 10. And I looked it up on Craft of Exile. And the chance to hit the damage multi for bleed, the chance to hit that with those amount of contempts I had was like 3 to 4%. And then I hit it in 1 or 2 hits. So definitely pretty lucky for this. So I got Flat Fizz, an acceptable level of Flat Fizz. Got the Bleed multi. It is the lowest tier, but it is what it is. And then Exalt Benchcraft percent Fizz damage. So the prefixes on this are finished. You'll notice that the suffixes are dog shit, which is good because it means now I'm just farming Harvest. You'll notice that I have at this point taken every Harvest node. I've taken full Call of the Grove. I've taken every Harvest node here that gives a chance to spawn. I've taken Heart of the... Wait, are they both called Call of the Grove? Okay, I'm just stupid. And then I took Heart of the Grove up here with all chances to spawn. So I'm trying to like really focus in on Harvest to get as many chances at Harvest as I can, because I really need keep prefix, reforge suffix. And I'm just going to keep doing that until I hit percent Fizz with Coaling Strike on bleeding enemies. And then hopefully there's room there to either multi-mod or I also get attack speed as I do it. So one of those two. So if I were to re-roll this and I hit, like, let's say we have 2 suffixes, or like we get 1 suffix or whatever it is, and I get, what is it? It's like 49% Fizz damage, increased Fizz damage, and Coaling Strike against bleeding enemies. That's the mod that I want the most. That's the biggest damage increase by far. Then I can throw on multi-mod and then put on attack speed and percent increased Fizz damage. You know, something like that. And then that would be a full 6 mod weapon. But a lot of that's just I need keep prefix, reforge suffix until I get it. So I do plan on farming up another Elder Seajax. I level 83. This one's only 79. And crafting that with fossils like you do, but that's more long-term. That's more end game. This is definitely good. As is, this was like a 15 to 18% damage increase over my last axe. Once I get, like, if I have no other mods except the Elder mod that gives Coaling Strike and percent increased Fizz, if I just get that mod, it like doubles the damage increase. Like this becomes like a 30-something% damage increase over the last axe I was using, which is just tons of damage, right? So Elder Axe is still good for bleed builds, believe it or not. But still a long way to go on this. Hopefully I can get lucky. Finding keep prefix, reforge suffixes is already mildly annoying. But hopefully I can get lucky and in a few hits have something at least acceptable, because I don't even have the multi-mod craft yet. I haven't really been focusing on getting unique maps. But yeah, sick ass axe for now. Definitely not what I would consider the endgame setup. In terms of things that I want to have by, actually, no, I need to go over my gym links. Sorry. So gym links for EQ. I did just flip a lot of my gyms, like I said at the beginning of the video, but we're running Vol EQ with less duration, brutality, melee fizz, cruelty, and chance to bleed. So you notice everything is the same. We just swap out multi-strike for less duration coming from Lacerate. In my shield, I have a level 1 caster damage shaken linked with a level 10 molten shell. And then I'm running a level 3 Flame Dash. Honestly, this should be level 1, but it really doesn't matter right now. But in my boots, now this is the first change, I think. I have Shield Charge linked with War Banner, faster attacks, and Blood and Sand. So a few things have been moved over to the boots. And in the left side over here, I have Reckoning linked with Maim and Life Gain on Hit, same as before, but now I've also linked it with Pulverize. This just gives it a lot more AoE. So when Reckoning does proc, I hit more monsters and basically get more life on block, because that's what it is. And then, you know, they're just about to squeak over into 20 range, which means I can flip these, which will give Reckoning more AoE and will give Life Gain on Hit more Life Gain on Hit. So this will be even more effective here in a minute. Other than that, I've got Blood Rage, Determination, and Grace in the weapon. So I moved Grace into my weapon off my helmet, and then I put Enduring Cry in the helmet. So it was linked with my life tap. Now with my current setup, I think Enduring Cry was only 3 or 4 mana, so it's really not that big of a deal, but I decided that I wanted the only thing like that cost mana in the build to be Earthquake. Just because I had an open link here. I might as well, because life is obviously like life tap on Enduring Cry is free effectively, because like obviously you pop Enduring Cry, so like my life literally doesn't even move because you instantly regen like, you know, like 2,000 life or whatever. So very comfortable there. So that's currently the link set up on everything. And then in my belt, I actually have a pretty decent Abyss Jewel. It's got flat life, it's got flat mana, it's got percent lightning res, and fizz damage reduction if I haven't been hit recently, which is, it's okay for bossing actually, especially because, you know, a decent amount of hits all block. So when something finally does come through the block, I basically, since I'm a block build, I'll have more uptime on this than a non-block build by a large margin. And I got the Harvest Implicit for 10% increased Frenzy Charge duration, which brings me to my future aspirations for the build. So immediately, hopefully by the next update, I have these gloves replaced with basically the same thing, but just with spell suppression on them effectively. And then I basically, every single main item here needs its implicits, its Eldritch implicits fixed, because none of them have really anything useful at this point. So I need to farm Eldritch currency for that, which obviously, like I said, we're moving into like high-end red, so that should become easier and easier now. And then other than that, I would like to have a Shaper Shield with percent life on block. It's honestly going to be really hard for me to replace this shield, especially since it gives me a lot of dex. So I may end up having to sacrifice one passive point, at least for now, on a proficiency note or something, or use a lower level grace or something, but yeah, I'm not sure. But I would like to have a Shaper Shield, and other than that, I would like to at least have one relevant suffix on the Siege Axe, and preferably some Vermilion rings, or at least one Vermilion ring, at least one. Other than that, in terms of the tree build wise overall, if I can hit a tier 3 or higher Searing Exarch implicit on this chest piece, which gives me a frenzy charge every 13 seconds, I will pull out of cleaving. I've already POB'd this. I will pull out of cleaving, and I will spend those 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, grabbing Savagery. This is a slight damage increase over cleaving, you know, baseline. And the reason I would go for this is because you get 20% frenzy charge duration here. I have 10% from this jewel, which puts me at 30%. And I need one more harvest implicit that gives 10%, which would give me 14-second frenzy charge duration. And then I can get, you know, again, the tier 3 Exarch currency level. I can throw that on, get one frenzy charge every 13 seconds, and that gives me frenzy charges on single target, which, as you'll notice, I don't have attack speed on my Siege Axe right now, so that attack speed will be really nice. It'll make clearing smoother, and then I also get that 12% more damage multiplier as well from the frenzy charges. But it's also, this is a damage gain over just taking cleaving at the exact same amount of passives, 4 points to 4 points, so it's just strictly better. But it also puts me one passive point away from both, one, a jewel socket, and two, another endurance charge. So this is a much better like point investment in terms of like passive point efficiency, because it enables me to have frenzy charges on single target. It gives me a jewel socket, and it gives me another endurance charge. So it's just very big across the board. It's a lot more survivability, and it's a lot more damage. So it's just a win-win-win-win-win. I just need to get again some harvest farming, and like I said, I need to do some conqueror farming and some Cirrus farming. But other than that, I think that's everything in terms of updates. The only change I would say is the flasks have changed. I'm not using a jade flask with % increased armor, using a granite flask with % increased evasion. Wasn't planned, that's just how it worked out. And then I'm also running a quartz flask now, since I'm no longer using an eternal mana flask. So yeah, I've got it rolled with reduced effective shock, by the way. And while I have Garurukon as well, I have 101% reduced effective shock on me, which again, that's not shock immune. Shock immune and reduced effect are two different things. If something so you can be shocked for more than 100%. There are sources of that in the game, like Cirrus, for example. But yeah, I think that's everything. Characters level 93. Got a lot to do. About to go live on Twitch, by the way. So if you are enjoying the build diaries, if you're enjoying the build updates, and you want to see this build live in action, possibly doing some Cirrus sometime today, hit me up over on Twitch. I'll be live directly after this video gets uploaded, you know, for any amount of hours. Also, I'm going to plug here as well. The Merry Fizmus Private League is still ongoing. It's popping off. If you guys want to join, it's basically group HCSSF. There is no trading allowed whatsoever. You can only share things. It's very similar to BPL, where there's no economy involved at all. You just like, except everybody's on the same team, and obviously it's in hardcore. So people are always like, hey, I got this. Do you need this? People are linking stuff. Do you guys need this? Hey, I got this. You know, so feel free to come over and join. Top meta builds are also banned. We're talking Spectral Helix, EA of any form, Detonate Deaden of any form, Righteous Fire, things like that, Exsanguinate, Seismic Traps, things like that. If you guys want more info, you can come over to the Twitch channel and type in this, or check out the private league video on my channel, which is, you know, like 2 or 3 uploads ago now. So check out one of those if you want more information on how to join the league. If you guys want to join the league, please do. The more the merrier. And lastly, if you enjoyed the video, leave me a thumbs up. It does help the algorithm. If you didn't enjoy the video, feel free to leave me a thumbs down and give me some constructive criticism rather down in the comments. And if you're enjoying the content that I'm pumping out, not every day, but kind of close to it, then feel free to leave me a sub to support me. And I think that's everything. So I will see you guys hopefully over on Twitch. Peace out, dudes. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.